Talk Councillor Carter. Okay, right, welcome everybody to the Finance and Performance Committee meeting for August 2022, and welcome to those live streaming, and a reminder to all committee members around the table that yes, this event is being live streamed, so obviously be well aware of that. I'll ask that the committee, all members in the council chamber stand, and we'll have the reading of the council prayer first.
Almighty God, as members of the Rangitikei District Council, we give thanks for all the good things of our district and the advantages we enjoy. We pray that you will give us wisdom and guidance as we conduct the affairs of this meeting. We pray for all the communities and the district we represent. Help us to be fair and honest in our discussions, and help us to work together in unity for the welfare of all your people. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Right, call for apologies, and we have received an apology from Councillor Duncan. She won't be attending this meeting, and I've also had an apology for lateness from Councillor Gordon. I believe that I've received any further apologies. Has anyone else received apologies? No. Could I have someone? Sorry.
Councillor Hero has also spoken.
Councillor Hero, okay. Councillor Hero has sent an apology in for the meeting. Move that they be accepted. Thank you, Councillor Carter. Seconded by Your Worship. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. We have no public forum scheduled for today. Let's move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is conflict of interest declarations. Do we have anyone with conflict of interest with anything within this order paper that they'd like to declare now? If there is none at the moment, if you are discussing the matter, please raise it at that time and we'll make a decision on that conflict. Your Worship.
Just in terms of apologies, the Chief Executive and I have a meeting at 11 o'clock. So we may have to skip away to an urgent meeting. So we'll see how we go for timing.
Okay, thanks for that. Confirmation of order of business, item 5. I'll take the order of business as it appears in the order paper. So no reason for any changes there. We'll move on to confirmation of minutes of the previous Finance and Performance Committee meeting. And that starts.
Chair, can I just request in terms of the order of business?
Yes.
With your permission, I'd just like to bring something to the attention of the committee, and just in case I'm not here at the end of the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
As I understand it, it is likely to be your last meeting chairing finance.
No, sorry, there was some confusion in regards to that. We do have one scheduled now for the 29th of September, so that there is one further meeting that I'll be taking part in. Yeah.
I'll reserve my comments until later and
Thank you.
dependent on your performance.
Give me a rating out of 10, but thank you. Okay, so minutes of the previous meeting, starting on page 6 of your order papers. We'll go through them page by page. If there are any amendments required, just let me know as we get to them. So starting off on page 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Are there any amendments required? No.
Happy to move, Chair.
You are moving? Okay, Councillor Wilson moving that they're a true and accurate record. Councillor Dalgety, are you seconding? Yes. Okay, all those in favour? Those against? Carried, thank you. Okay, we move on to item 7 on the agenda, which is the follow-up action items from the Finance Performance meeting. And it is was a very reduced list to what we have seen. So only a couple of things there, and one of those items has actually been closed off. Are there any points that any members would like to make to those items, or staff if you'd like to make comment? No. Oh, okay, so fairly self-explanatory there. So could we have someone move that the current follow-up action items be received? Thank you, Worship. Seconded by Councillor Carter. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Right. Moving along to the Chair's report. And members should have received the Chair's report emailed out last night, but there is also a table Chair report sitting in front of you. Councillor Ash, you're Zooming online. Did you receive yours by email? Great, thank you. Just a couple of comments that I'd like to make there. We've passed our end of financial year, and my comments around there are, one of them really is around the Capital Works program. Now, while we had a significant amount of projects that were scheduled, it has been a very tough period that we're going through as far as COVID and I guess resourcing some of these projects. But to achieve $22.3 million worth of capital program, I think is, to me, is certainly a highlight from my time on council. I think there's a lot of work has been achieved, and I have no doubt that it is to do with the introduction of the PMO and driving those projects forward. There's areas of the Capital Works program that haven't been delivered upon, but we've been pretty well versed on why that has happened, and those projects are still in the mix and still to take place. So we hope to see those progressing certainly through the next financial year. The rest of it's just comments really about the LGFA report. Fairly hefty reading within that. I don't know who read that top to bottom, but interesting though to see the interest rates starting to climb out of that, and unfortunately we have no control over that, and I think that's going to be a significant issue for councils, with lending heading into the future. I had a discussion with our CFO this morning in regards with interest rates. They are set from the times of our borrowing, so that is one area that's fixed for the term of that lending period, which is pleasing. But yes, certainly lending going into the future is going to be come to us at more of a cost. And finally, just a thanks to staff for the information provided in these reports. From a governance perspective, they're informative. They give us good information, and but I'd like, in saying that, I'd like to say to committee members, if you feel there's information you think would be more beneficial or would help give us more information, this is the time to actually perhaps put a request forward, and we can have a discussion on whether that's feasible. But that's pretty much it for my Chair's report. I'm happy to take any questions. Councillor Ash.
Yes, thank you. I did receive your report last night. Thanks for that. One question that I did have from that, and I don't know whether or not asking within your report or further through the agenda is the correct space, but just wondering if we have a understanding as to how long those terms are set for the borrowings that we've got. Obviously, with interest rates going up, it would be prudent to understand when those all come, require resetting.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Ash. I believe there are some terms set. Are they in the question to the terms? They're in the order paper or in the report. The length of those borrowing terms. So the dates are actually provided in the report, Councillor Ash, and they are fairly long term. I think there's 3 lots of borrowings there. What page was that on?
29.
Yeah. So page 29 of the report. We could discuss it at that time, if you like, when we get to that report. With that, Councillor Ash? Yeah, okay. Right, any further questions? Otherwise, I'll move that my Chair's report be received. Thank you, seconded by Councillor Wilson. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. Right, moving on to reports for information, and we have the financial snapshot. And Hillary, are you coming to speak to this, or are you leaving that to Mr. Toombs?
Mr. Toombs?
Okay. Thank you for the information provided within the report, Hillary. It's very informative, but I'll hand over to Mr. Toombs to take us through.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments, Chair. I just would like to make two comments before I open to the floor. Sections 2.2, 2.3 and 3.2 of the report, that's page 15, they refer to budget carry forwards. Obviously, the end of the financial year, carryovers is a significant and important part of what we do. And as the paper notes, we will be bringing a paper to either the September or October Finance Committee once the financial year wrap-up's been finalised, so we know what the final figures are, with some carry forwards. So they will be all listed out with details and summaries. The report also notes that the annual plan does include some carry forwards too. What we intend to do is in the next report is to attach a summary of what's already been carried forward within the annual plan. So there's a full list of projects carried forward from one year to the other. So obviously in the spirit of the transparency and having it all together. So that was the first comment. And the other comment I wanted to make was on page 19. There's a little bit of a glitch snuck into the system. The far left-hand column, year-to-date actual June for other comprehensive income, it's actually in real dollars, not thousands of dollars. So the figure there was 3408. It's not actually 30 million, it's 30 grand. So
I did have that circled as a question, so
it would have been nice if it was 30 million, but so that's just the system-generated glitch that we're aware of, and we'll fix up for next time. But that doesn't flow through to any other formulas or totals, and I think it's fairly obvious that you can see from the third column that it's been corrected. But apart from that, just happy to take questions.
okay. Thank you for that. Happy to take questions from committee members. Councillor Carter.
With the roading and footpath schedules,
What page are we on there?
it's a general question overall. I think you can follow what I'm going to be going through. Edward Street was brought up for the fact of it not being finished off properly and to go back to the contract to get fixed. I now get a letter saying it's now been put onto the schedule of repair.
That's probably not a question to put to this committee. This deals with the finances.
Well, that's what I'm referring to, is scheduled repairs. That means that this committee's paying for it rather than the maintenance program. I mean, sorry, rather than the contractor.
Sorry, I can't answer that question here, but yeah, it's more of an assets and infrastructure type question I would expect. So, staff, have we got any comment?
I have no direct knowledge of Edward Street or program of works, no.
If I can make just a quick comment through you, Mr. Chair, it wouldn't be obvious, not from this, but I'll go back to the running team and just be sure that we understand where those costs are.
Right.
I think in general, Arno's team, through our shared services arrangement, have a renewed focus on quality and ensuring that where works have been completed that are substandard, that any not repair, but remediation, thank you for that, works are undertaken at their own cost. In general, without having the ability to have this question asked ahead of time, we can't provide more detail on that example, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Perhaps you could forward that question on to the Chief Executive and Arno.
Show Arno the letter has been received.
Okay. Well, yeah, if you forward that question on to the Chief Executive and the Head of Assets. Thank you. Your Worship.
Yes, page 21, the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, and the commentary there is an unbudgeted 500k was received totally correct, etc. However, it does go on to say that there was unspent income, and will that be part of the list of carry forwards? Because I thought that there was a requirement that it actually had to be spent or returned.
Okay, the question to staff, are you able to provide any clarity in regards with that?
Yes, it will be part of that, but it has to be spent, as I understand.
It has been spent.
It has to be spent, yeah. Otherwise has to be returned, as I understand.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. So maybe offline, could we just come back to me around where that budget sits?
With some clarity around the spend.
I don't see it as a major. I just see that's just.
Are you happy with so who's taking on that undertaking?
Me, sorry for missing here. I also note that we've got unspent income from 1920 is to be carried forward to 22-23. So there's quite a lot in there that I will need to get clarity on. But if we have made, if we've underspent, then there's an obligation, as His Worship said, to pay it back, and I will need to understand that, please.
Yeah.
For me to respond to His Worship.
Okay, thank you. So a response will go back to His
It'll
Worship.
be an undertaking, if I can, Ash, on that one.
Okay.
Which is to fully explain page 21, the unspent income relating to Mayor's Task Force for Jobs.
Okay, and that will be reported back to this committee, or
Yes.
Right? Okay, thank you.
That was the only one from me.
Further questions, Councillor Dalgetty?
I'm just interested, please, how do the vested assets work and what happens with respect to them?
Okay, I'll ask comment from staff there. Maybe it might come from assets as well as finance.
I'll start. Okay, so quite often in our world, a developer will come and build some development, and they will pay for some infrastructure to be part of that, and then they gift us that infrastructure, so we have ownership of it. That's known as vested assets. So what we do is we look at the financial value of that gift, and it's recorded as a vested asset. It should really be a vested liability because we've got to maintain the thing. But the way the accounting treatment works is it's a vested asset. It's an in-kind gift.
And when does it transfer from a vested asset into box of?
Oh, okay. Yes. So for the income statement, it's shown as an income line. It automatically goes onto our balance sheet as part of our asset database.
Okay, thank you.
And then it starts attracting depreciation.
Yes. And maintenance costs and yes.
Your Worship?
That's in relation to Hereford Heights, wasn't it?
Okay, further questions? Just had a couple in regards with the rates revenue column on a couple of headings. So page 20 under community leadership, and also page 22 under environmental and regulatory. The budgeted rates income shows, on the first one, community leadership, shows an 18% lower rates income than what was budgeted. And as well with environmental and regulatory, we budgeted 1.2 million of rates income, and we've only received 1.05, so about a 12% decrease. Just a question, why is that?
Yeah, that kind of dovetails back into page 18, where there's in the business units, there's a large debit budget for rates with a zero actual figure there, which is what you'd expect to see, that actual figure. We're looking into the model. The model appears to have allocated more to a couple of areas with an offsetting debit in business units. So the actual allocation we're comfortable with, but the budget model.
Okay, so there might be an anomaly in the budgeted figures sitting on those.
For last financial year, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I just thought if we'd, when I read the report, I thought if we budgeted to receive those rates, then that would be allocated out of the rates take to those centres, to those cost centres.
Yeah, they were looking into why the model has left a big debit balance in the business units, but importantly, at the whole of council level, it's all balanced out.
Right, okay.
And this financial year, there's no such debit sitting in business units as the budgets have been allocated.
Okay. So once you find out what that modelling issue was, that'll be, we'll provide an answer. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Can I just, through the chair, can I just ask a further question around that? So if you have a property that has had a rate arrears for a number of years and they clear their rate debt, as we've had this year with a reasonable lump sum payment, that's just regarded as just purely and simply as rates income with no tie back against that of previous years or anything like that?
No, basically, if someone clears a rates debt, that just reduces the debt on the balance sheet. The income level doesn't change. So cash goes up, debtors goes down if it's a prior year debt.
Okay.
Councillor Ashley, every time she goes offline, we have to note it, and so we're fighting to keep on. Every time she goes off, we have to note it, then renote it, note it, renote it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Ash, sorry, just with your zooming into the meeting, when your video disappears, staff are having to note that you're not in the meeting. Have you got an issue with your internet connection?
No, trying to be discreet, blowing my nose.
Yeah, sorry, it's just a point that staff.
Yeah, I'm definitely still here. I haven't left my seat at all. I'm just trying to be discreet, is all.
Thank you. Welcome, Councillor Hilton. Right, further questions? I had one that, Mr. Toombs, I think you referred to at the start of your commentary, page 27 in regards with the carry forward budgets there on the capital works. And in the roading and footpath section, we had a underspend in the sealed road pavement rehab, as well as the drainage renewals, and they were the only two areas. There's no carry forward showed on that paper, but you're saying they've been carried forward through the annual plan process, and then staff will provide commentary around those carry forward items.
Yeah, so the fourth column on that table you referred to with numbers on it, if there's a number in the fourth column, then that is in the annual plan. If the column's blank, then once this last financial year's figures have been finalised, we'll speak to the project owner, see how much of the underspent budget they want carried forward, and that will come to the next committee.
Right, okay. I thought you'd provided clarification, but I just wanted to double check that so that committee members are aware of any of those gaps that are sitting there at the moment. Certainly will come back to this committee. Okay, further questions? If not, I'll have someone move, or could I have someone move that the financial snapshots be received? Thank you, Councillor Dalgety, seconded by Councillor Carter. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to the Treasury and Debt Report. And Mr. Toombs, are you taking us through this, or Sam?
Sam wants to step up. Yeah.
Welcome to the table.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take the report as read and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions of the report. And Councillor Ash, this is where the maturity dates are provided for the debt borrowings that are shown here, which should answer your question earlier.
Thank you. I'm aware of that. Yeah, no, I did have another question in regards to it still.
Okay. You've got a further question?
Yeah, I'll wait till he's presented his report though. Hey, thank you.
No, we're taking the report as read, so we're now open to questions for the report. So
Oh, right,
Councillor
okay.
Gordon. We'll start with councillor Gordon.
In 2.2, there's just a comment there that our current account balance exceeds the recommended limit. Does that 6.9 million sit in the next row, next bullet point down where it's got bank deposits, 9.8? Is that where that bit of money lives?
Yes, so the bank deposits included our term deposits as well, but that's upstairs, when we say current accounts, that is more like a check account.
Okay.
Yeah.
Supplementary, if I may. So when it says, exceeds our recommended limit, is it that much of an issue? Or is it just that we've got a bit more cash on hand, ready to do jobs that didn't get done?
And so the policy says, for operational purposes, you normally don't need more than 3 million in your current account. And when the policy has in mind is put the money excess of that into a term deposit because it earns greater interest. And when you get greater interest by keeping it in the current account, you keep it in the current account.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I certainly don't have any argument to that. That's good financial management. Your worship.
So just in terms of simple terms for those listening in online, we have a net financial current position of about 15.5 million with an associated debt of about 19 million. That's the very brief summary of our financial position. The money that we hold in our accounts, a whole lot of that will be money that's coming from depreciation funding as well. So we don't identify those back to each financial stream, do we?
So the money we hold in the account.
So when we do our budgets and so on, we allow for depreciation and we rate for it, and they'll be rated, that depreciation schedule will be against each asset stream, but we don't separate that out at all as to our depreciation position, net or negative.
Sorry, is the question, so the depreciation that is collected through rates, are you saying does it sit in one depreciation pot, or is it actually scheduled to road in, water, or the individual cost centres? Is that the question? So do we allocate depreciation, the amount of depreciation collected, do we allocate it solely for roading, solely for the water projects? Or does it just sit as a
question correctly? Yes. So the report we looked at earlier, for each of the different groups has rates revenue, it has other revenue, it has depreciation, and the goal is to get each of them to have a balanced budget, each group. So yes, we do, subject to some depreciation not being funded, we do aim to get each group to be balanced budget.
so depreciation is targeted to the area?
Yeah.
I might carry this conversation on later.
Further questions? Councillor Ash.
So just expanding on what I was trying to explain earlier, in regards to the debt, so the maturity levels are there. Does that mean that those amounts are then cleared at that maturity date, or do they get carried on beyond that maturity date? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so these, thanks for the question, councillor. So these are fixed amount of interest rate, and at maturity date, if we don't do anything, then we need to repay the amount. And so as you can see, the 3 million was taken out back in 2019 and reflected a lower interest rate at that time. And as the time moved on, the interest rate started to climb. And based on the latest LGFA tender, the interest rate they're predicting could go as high as a 5% around a 2037 maturity date. So the money, it is getting dearer as we speak.
Thank you.
And just following on from that, so what will happen is on maturity date, if we have enough cash in the bank, we'll repay the debt, or if not, we'll refinance. And as Sam said, we'll refinance at the rates prevailing at the time.
Yes, yeah.
Just to add clarity to support the councillor's question, are we paying back the debt like we would as people, as residents? You pay back debt so that, and the maturity date, the balance is zero, or are we paying the interest only and look to pay it back in a lump sum?
Interest only, there's no P&I,
So
interest only.
can you explain that?
Okay, so all the fixed term loans are interest only, which means the 3 million we borrowed 2-3 years ago will still be 3 million owing at maturity. We're not reducing the capital amount of the loan. They're interest only.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Ash?
Well, yes, that does answer my question, and obviously raises a whole number of other questions, which I'll leave it there. It's fairly obvious. I find that rather alarming. I wasn't aware that we're only paying interest only, and that we'll be left with that at the end. And if we were to refix another term loan, it could be at a significantly higher interest rate, and I find that alarming. But thank you.
Is that standard practice for local government and council organisations?
In my experience, yeah.
It is. Thank you. Okay, further questions? If there are none, could I ask that someone move the Treasury and Debt Report be received? Thank you, Councillor Gordon, seconded by Councillor Dalgety. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, moving on to 9.3 on the order paper, which is the QV monthly report. And Sam, have you got any comments you'd like to provide to this report? I see you're the author, so.
No, I'll take this report as read and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions to the report? Certainly just a comment from my perspective. There is still a lot of building activity going on within our district, and this report provides the information to that. We certainly haven't seen any slowdown with the subdivisions that are taking place. They're certainly all starting to come on stream now, and then building activity is happening certainly up at Hereford Heights. There's a lot of building activity going there. So yeah, it's great to see the growth within our district in that respect. Councillor Gordon.
Mr. Chair, I mean, just a comment. I think in the analysis, the comments on 2.2 and 2.3 are sort of the telling ones. You know, suddenly we've got this spike in June, but there's a whole lot of transfers that go through then. So, and it's reflected in the graphs, I mean, but it's pretty positive.
Very much so. Right. Any further comments, questions, Your Worship?
Just the implementation. So we have a greenfields development. Somebody buys a property, they build on it. We then go through a process of getting a evaluation from QV, and once we receive that goes into our rating database, and the rates are then adjusted from that point on, or the next financial year, because it's the next financial year, isn't it? So if they happen to time it correctly, is there any process used elsewhere where the valuations from QV are updated against, and so the rating database increases throughout the financial year? Are there any councils that can adopt that to any degree, or is it within the Government Rating Act?
I'm not sure about the legislative background. My understanding is that it's the sector practices in addition to the rating database takes effect on the following 1st of July.
Yes, so you are right.
What I'm trying to illustrate here is there's a delay effect, isn't there?
Oh yeah. Big impact to the ratepayer if they finalise on the 30th of June as opposed to 1st of July.
So if we have 200 new homes within the financial year, it's potentially say 200 multiplied by $2,500 to $3,000.
Yeah, bearing in mind, we strike our rates and then divide that amongst the ratepayers. We don't, what they do in Australia is they rate each individual property. So the sum total of that gives you what you end up with, as opposed to downward dividing.
Certainly, but by doing that effectively, it takes the potential to take the pressure off the rest of the rating database. I mean, if you time the QV process well, effectively you get
Name it for a year.
a year's free rates.
We probably don't want to advertise that fact. We should be, but you're right.
I mean, the house lottery, this is a QV process independent to council.
Yeah.
And we just have to live with how they progress it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Councillor
understand,
Wilson.
yeah, through your chair, I understand the mayor's question, but also whilst it's independent to QV, it is also linked back to when the CCC and everything is completed by council.
Correct.
So that process in itself takes a period of time to get finalised. So not until you get your code of compliance certificate does that sign off the building, which therefore signals that to QV. So you could well have a build process that's going to take you 8-10 months or a year. You could roll through that. So it would be almost impossible to have a stepped valuation of that property throughout the build process, because you'd never know without the CCC.
Yeah. What you're telling me is that potentially it's not only a year, it could be 18 months to 2 years.
It could be 18 months. It could be 18 months to 2 years before. Yeah.
Yes, there are some anomalies in the system, but unfortunately that's legislation, that's how it works. So, okay, further questions? No, if there being none, I'll ask that if someone move that the QV monthly report be received. Thank you, Your Worship. Seconded by Councillor Dalgety. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Quarterly property sales, Mr. Toombs, you've...
Yeah, happy to take the report as read. Again, just noting that previously we identified that the reporting we provided does and can include some anomalies due to the formulas that are used behind these statistics. And I would just like to advise the members that I actually had a presentation with another company yesterday who show us alternative reporting formats that I'd like to bring to the next finance committee, just as a demonstration to see what else is available that may be more reliable and useful.
Okay. Thank you.
But I would just say,
Certainly would look forward to seeing any alternatives, but I mean, this to the most part does provide an overall picture of what's happening in the district. But yeah, you're right, there are some anomalies within here that when properties are sold at nominal levels, it can have quite a significant impact on some of the figures within this report. But overall, there's still some fairly strong activity when you certainly in the urban sector, and to some extent in the rural sector of property sales as well. Yeah. Right, any further questions to the property sales report?
Just
Yes,
a comment if I
Councillor
may, Chair. I think the graph on page 43 is very interesting in terms of residential, in terms of sector sales, breaking it up. I mean, in terms of the bigger picture, residential and pastoral, leading the pack, and all the rest you can bundle up into one. There's very little impact in there, including in the dairy sector and forestry. I mean, I find that quite interesting.
Yes, good point. Your Worship.
Yeah.
Lifestyle.
I may be misunderstanding this, but for instance, in the rural sector, because the individuals, say in the northern area, an individual property sale, one could be extremely significant. Now, some of these family farming groups are vast, and you get transference and sales literally within the family. It doesn't have to go out to a competitive thing to test the market. So literally you could get sales that are potentially deliberately under market value. So the report tends to indicate, for instance, in rural north, a drop in the value of the properties, and I just wonder if that is actually real, or whether it is dependent on some family anomaly situations rather than properties that have gone to the market. If you can understand where I'm heading.
Yeah, and I think that's the comment that Mr. Toombs made. There are some anomalies that skew this report to some extent, and potentially another alternative reporting model may deal with those, but we'll have to wait and hear that presentation at the next finance meeting. Councillor Dalgety.
Just with a background in this, so every sale is coded. 1.1 is a market sale. 1.2, there's an action required, which would be the subdivision or a building consent. 1.3 is a non-market.
Right. So it can be separated out. Right. And that may well be part of this different or other reporting model, but we'll have to wait and see what that includes. And those are the questions that could be asked at that time. Your Worship.
One of the reasons for my interest in looking at this was because there's been a significant talk around the country about rural properties being sold for carbon credit forestry at rates that are beyond where the normal market would sit as a farming operation. And this report would indicate to me that in our particular neck of the woods that hasn't happened.
Zero.
Councillor Dalgety.
Our neighbouring property is sold for 24,000 an acre. So it's a smaller property, but
For carbon credit forestry, isn't it?
no, that's for farming. But they wanted it, so that's what they.
They wanted it, that's what they paid.
Market forces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Market is what market is.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it certainly skews reporting though when that's happening. Certainly, if you're looking at an overall picture like this. Further questions or comments? Okay. No, did we move that? We didn't move the property sales report. No, we haven't. Could I have a mover for that report, please? Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Carter. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, moving on to 9.5 on the order paper, the LGFA report. Quarterly, well, this is our 6 monthly. Actually, we get it 6 monthly for this committee. So, Sam, I'll hand over to you.
I'll take the report as read and happy to answer any questions.
As I said in my report, it's fairly hefty reading. And it might numb your brain while sitting down reading. Mr. Toombs.
If I may just draw your attention to page 50, Little Rangitikei District Council makes a debut appearance on the list of guarantors. So,
First time on the list.
Yes. And on page 52, even better, we get specific mention of the bottom bullet point, just to confirm that we are being moved from a non-guarantor to a guarantor.
So perhaps just remind people online or members of the committee the difference between being a non-guaranteeing member and a guaranteeing member. I think that's probably important.
Thank you very much. Yeah. The main difference is when most councils, if not practically all councils, borrow their money from LGFA, Local Government Funding Agency. What LGFA let you do is to borrow up to 20 million without being a guaranteeing member. If you want to borrow more than 20 million, you have to be a guaranteeing member. Being a guaranteeing member has two, outcomes. One is you access slightly cheaper interest rates. The other side is all guaranteeing members guarantee every other guaranteeing member's debt proportion to their borrowings to LGFA.
Chair, through you, the key thing being proportional to, so it's on a pro rata basis.
Yes, yeah.
Correct. Given against size.
And interestingly, in a previous council I worked at, there was an external credit rating agency that charge a fair fee, but they'll come in and they'll give each council a credit rating. And being a guaranteeing member was actually seen as a positive.
So
Sorry, so our current borrowing to 19 million, as we saw earlier. So now we're a guaranteeing member, we can, as our capital programme kicks on, we can borrow more from LGFA. If we were a non-guarantee member, we could still have borrowed that extra money from the bank, but on more expensive rates, generally speaking.
Is it a requirement as a guaranteeing member to have a credit rate, to be credit rated?
If you are credit rated, you will access slightly cheaper interest rates, but the cost is tens of thousands.
Right, okay, so it doesn't make fiscal sense to go through that process?
And not for someone outside, for the big cities and even probably the top 12, 15 size councils in New Zealand, it makes sense, but the others don't.
Right. Yeah, we should.
Tens of thousands is an annual requirement rather than a one-off, isn't it? Because you have to go back to Moody's or whoever each year and update your financial position for the reassess.
Yeah. I think it might be 2 years, but yeah, it's a regular thing, not just a one-off, definitely.
But as a cost to the potential savings, it doesn't stack up.
No, not for our size, no.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Through Chair, do we need to signal to LGFA, or are they already aware of what our capital spend program is through our long-term and annual plans? Is there a requirement to signal future spend?
No, they regularly ask each council what their forecast borrowing plans are.
Yeah.
So via that mechanism, that they'll get a handle on.
So there's an ongoing conversation
Oh, yes.
with them on a fairly regular basis. Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Ash.
Thank you. I was just wondering if there's a figure that could illustrate what our potential liability is as a guaranteeing council. Obviously, that's a worst case scenario, but I have a certain amount of discomfort around the increasing interest rates and what that could mean for us if other councils ran into problems. So I'm still trying to get my head around what that actually looks like and what our liability potentially could be.
Thank you very much. Well, obviously, every council's borrowing is going to be significantly changed in 2 years' time. If the debt we're currently associating with Three Waters is paid to us, as we've been told, we won't have any debt, and we won't be alone in that situation. So in that case, we'd have no potential exposure under LGFA, because if the exposure is in relation to your debt and we don't have any debt, we'll have a zero exposure. And in terms of, I think the second part of your question was, what's our risk in respect of future increased interest rates? Again, if we have no debt, there's probably going to be zero risk. But having said that, our capital programme will be such that we are likely to incur debt at some stage in the future. And like for all councils, the exposure is going to be subject to the rates ruling at the time, which we think are going up, but as to what rate and over what period of time, speculation to a large extent.
So the majority of our forecast debt is based around the Three Waters.
Yeah, our last annual plan or annual report had we have what's called FISs, financial information statements, for each of our groups, and Three Waters related debt was being shown at 30 million, and our all of council debt is currently 19.
Councillor Wilson.
Just raises an interesting question for me. So with, as you say, we may not have any debt in 3 years' time, but the position with the LGFA as a guaranteeing member surely relates back to a council's asset base, as it's what it's securing its debt against, it's securing against its assets. And we may lose a significant part of assets. So is there any talk with LGFA as to how that's going to be rejigged? Or is that too big a question at this stage because we don't know what the outcomes are going to be?
I'll double check, but I'm fairly sure our guarantee is proportionate to the debt we have with LGFA, not in our asset base.
Not related to assets at all as to...
I'll double check. I believe it's the proportion of overall debt that sits with us.
Is it purely based on ability to pay or to service?
Just the exposure is, so if LGFA's total debt's 100 and 1 million of that's ours, then we'd be guaranteeing 1%. So it's, the proportion is based on our debt with LGFA, not our asset base.
Yeah, further to that was just referring to our, lending capacity to going forward. Is that not based on your asset base as what you can lend? Do we not lose a significant option to lend? Or
borrow.
lend?
Yeah.
Borrow, sorry.
Yeah, so there's 4 borrowing criteria that LGFA have out. It's covered in more detail in our reporting to Audit and Risk Committee. Some of them are based on liquidity, some are based on interest cover. They're not really based on asset base. It's revenue and it's revenue based.
Revenue base. Okay, that sounds it. Thank you.
Of course, our revenue will go down.
Yeah.
as well, yeah.
Thank you.
I think there are some percentages in the metrics that our council have agreed to in regards with debt versus overall revenue, and I think those figures sit within that. We're well within that currently, but we start pushing the limit
Currently, yeah. Thank you.
towards the through the LTP process. Okay, further questions? Okay, there being none, could I have someone move that the LGFA General Information Report be received? Thank you, Your Worship. Seconded by Councillor Dalgetty. All those in favour? Okay, carried. Okay, moving on to 9.6, the Happy or Not report on page 68 of the order paper. And Mrs. Gordon.
Thank you. As Sam says, I'll take the report as read. I'm happy to answer any questions, but just noting that I did make a point in the covering report that some of the response levels are down because we did have periodic closures with due to staff illnesses across the month. But if you look at the percentage of very happy and happy, that's 96%. So if you add those two together, which is pretty good.
Councillor Gordon will take questions.
I'd like to make a comment. I'd like to congratulate the Chief Operating Officer on whatever he's putting in the water in Taihape, because we're 100% happy, so well done.
Yes.
Restrictions on water, have not.
Yeah, we couldn't keep up with the whiskey that we're putting in the water.
Yeah, that's fine. Keep it up.
So, in regards to those, the happy or not reporting in that space, how does that work? Sorry, how's that data collected?
So that's people who actually choose the buttons at each of our sites.
Yes, yeah.
And this is a monthly report that's generated from that.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just probably referring to Councillor Gordon's comment about the water and how's that fed back.
Maybe people are just happy.
Happy to take that.
Yes.
As an outcome.
Yes.
Oh no, it's pleasing to see, this sort of feedback showing that level of satisfaction, and we've obviously still got the other programs of feedback in place now. Has that actually been kicked off now?
So what I can report is it is live on our website. We haven't promoted it yet, but the QR codes have just been delivered. So we got them for all the parks, all the toilets, etc. We worked with Murray and with Galen's team to work out where they were all going to be. We're now, because we've got them, we now are getting them installed, and then we'll work on the comms around that promotion of that service.
Great, okay.
Just do a comment on Anteno and just your thinking around it.
Yeah, we are looking at alternatives as well. An app-based system, which some of you may have heard about, Anteno, which is a system that allows people who are driving along to take a photo of a pothole or something that they notice, and it gets directly fed into council. And there's also a feedback, a push notification that we can give to customers to say, remember your rates are due on XYZ date, or dog registrations are due, that sort of thing. So we're looking at those alternatives as well.
So just a question on that Anteno, they can take a photo of a pothole and feed that through to council. Does that feed into the RFS system?
That's what we're working through that would be our desire to have it work that way.
So there's no double up and,
That's
and
right.
someone having to
Do it.
take the photo and put their concerns in about it, but also enter an RFS for a
If I may add to Carol, may I?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
to be fair on Carol, I kind of threw her in the deep end on that one. We only had the meeting with the supplier yesterday.
Right.
And jointly, the executive team were excited about the potential of this opportunity at a relatively low cost for the organisation. As Carol said, it allows our residents to notify us of issues quickly, but also for us to communicate with them quickly, tell them we've received it, tell them what the outcome is. So, you know, all those things that Carol has been implementing as improvements in the RFS system, but this brings it to an app rather than a phone call or a website. So it's now for the generation of people who use mobile phones prevalently. It's for them, but it can also be an online tool as well. So it's to add more to our existing systems. And as, yeah, it doesn't replace anything. And as Carol also said, it allows people to set their areas of interest. So for example, people might in their app go in and set it up to say, I'm only interested in a James Wilson Park. Only ever send me a notification when the park is closed or something relates, and so they will only ever get a notification on that particular thing. And you can imagine you set your areas or parameters of interest, and every time you send out a push notification, then a person, so people aren't swamped, and it can't, so it's pushed to them all the time. And we got some examples of how that works in other councils, and it's, yeah, we're very excited about that opportunity for our comms as well. And one of the things we asked for is, can we do surveys on it? And so these are the things we're working on, and we're very early days, but I think collectively the executive team were very excited about the opportunity.
Okay, it's pleasing to hear, and obviously we need to take on board that it is, you've only just been presented this, so I guess it's difficult for you to provide some answers until you've gone through the process, and will feedback be given to this committee before going ahead with any of that, or is it literally an operational decision?
It's an operational decision. It won't impact on budgets, so I don't anticipate, but I think we wish to inform our elected members of these kind of initiatives, so it will be an information if that's okay.
Okay, we've got a few questions and hands up, so I'll start with your worship and then we'll move around.
A couple of questions from me. How specific are we requiring site description? Because I can see somebody saying, here's a photograph of a pothole. I live in the Turkana Valley Road.
It's geo. It logs it itself, the exact point. It
Geos.
uses the geo maps for that.
Okay.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It also allows you to take it, sorry, Your Worship, take a photo, but then if you're not in a cell phone coverage, it'll remember the location, and when you get into cell phone coverage, it will give the geospatial of the.
That's clever.
Yeah.
Yes. Will we need to set up a separate filing system for those that take the photos of state highways?
Yeah.
Because they're.
It was interesting yesterday, what we know is that our neighbouring councils have this, and the information it had is that where two neighbouring councils are both using the system, there's an interaction between them, so that if someone thinks it's actually from Manawatu, but it's actually in Rangitikei or vice versa, it'll automatically send it. And the other example we were given yesterday is that where it was for things that relate, there was one particular group of district councils that get frustrated that they get a lot of inquiries over a regional council issue, that both the regional council and the district council use it, and it automatically, you can log it on the district council and it automatically goes to regional council. So that's how advanced this particular solution is, and we thought that was a pretty nifty idea as well.
To answer your question further, I think, if Waka Kotahi were using it, we could do that, but it would also, when it appears on our system, we would have a mechanism to forward it on to Waka Kotahi, just like we do now.
The disgruntled feelings very heavily against the network on state highways at the moment.
Yeah, it's certainly popular and it's hitting the news right currently. Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, just seeing as we're talking about the feedback report, well, which I can see that, have, and you may not have the answer, but does it have the ability to give a response that links to this new system?
I'm not
You
sure
might not have
yet,
that answer,
no.
but it would be interesting if it did, because it's an online app, which, and the reason that I'm asking that is we look at these reports here, in some areas the responses are very low. This would tend to have a greater response opportunity and a greater response if it could link back into our feedback. Now, I don't know if those two would link together. The happy or not survey I'm referring to.
Must have been these,
Yeah, you might not, because you only just got them presented, but there could be a connection between those two, which would lift our responses from some of these things here.
Through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely. So we spoke to them about that, and what you can do is you can push to people the little QR code.
Yeah.
To then complete the survey, but what happens is the results pop up over there.
Yeah, so they
Push
could link
notification,
together.
yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
that's what I was
Or
hoping.
if we have something specific we'd like to ask, we can send something up that will then do the same thing.
Excellent.
So
Thank you.
everything's linked up.
it's an exciting development. Yeah. Councillor Carter, then Councillor Gordon.
There is an app at the moment that works very well that I've used, Snap, Send and Solve. That works really well with it, and it picks the council wants to go to as well.
So that feeds into council as well? Right, okay. Councillor Gordon?
Yeah, my comment is that we are going to find some more pain points. I mean, that's a given, but I think it's really positive because it's part of building the relationship with our community because, you know, there's the disgruntled stuff that His Worship has mentioned that is out there. We're not picking it up in our normal systems so that, you know, we should be digging down and finding these itches to scratch and dealing with them. And I mean, you know, we'll take a bit of flack occasionally, but that's good because we're actually dealing with the root cause of, you know, of relationships and issues and stuff. So I see this as really positive.
Yeah, communication is key, and if people don't know about something, they don't know that it needs fixing, or you know, don't know where those concerns are. So the more opportunities, I think it's exciting. Look forward to seeing the development of it. Okay, further questions around the table? No, if there be none, could I have someone move that the happy or not report be received? Councillor Gordon, did you move that?
He's happy.
Yeah. And Councillor Carter. Seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, that brings us to the end of our order paper. Thank you all for your input today. Got through the meeting reasonably quickly, but some good discussion points. I'd just like to take this or make this point that our next Finance and Performance Committee meeting is set for September the 29th. We'll be deliberating on some grants funding, both of them. So we're actually having an earlier start time of 8:30. So if committee members can actually make note of that, I'll try and make a point when I send out my chair's report to remind you of it at that time as well. But yeah, please make a note that there is an earlier start time of 8:30. So unfortunately, our Northern Ward councillors will have to get up very early.
Get out even earlier.
Yeah. So thank you all very much, and I'll call the meeting closed. Oh, sorry, before I call it closed, Your Worship.
Be deliberating on grants funding.
Yes.
We won't be able to make the decisions because we don't have that delegated authority to make the decisions this round. It would need to go to full council.
Sorry.
So we're just interested in the timing. So the next finance meeting is when?
29th of September.
And the next council meeting is the same day.
That
Yeah,
day.
same day.
We wouldn't then have time to put recommendations on an order paper. Would we?
No, because
the decision be made by this council.
the delegation is still made by the Finance Performance Committee, so they have delegated authority to make the decisions on those grants funding. So that doesn't then get forwarded onto council for final decision. So no, those decisions can still be made at that meeting. Okay, we'll call the meeting closed. Thanks to all those online watching the live stream, and thanks Councillor Ash for zooming in.